Boeing CEO Kelly Ortberg was in the hot seat on Capitol Hill Wednesday. Members of the Senate Commerce Committee questioned him about the company's recent manufacturing and safety issues. Boeing has come under fire after several recent incidents, including that door plug blowing off a 737 MAX 9 plane last year. The company has also been scrutinized for allegedly retaliating against whistleblowers who raised safety concerns. CBS News senior transportation correspondent Kris Van Cleave joins us now for more. Kris, what did the CEO say Boeing has done to address safety issues?
Well, he laid out part of what they have been saying they've been working on for months, integrating a safety management system, which is something that airlines, for example, have. And it's a way of trying to identify problems or trends before it results in something that like an accident or an injury. So they're implementing that. They say they've submitted their safety management plan to the FAA, and they hope to have their mandatory program in place by October. They've also changed how they are building planes. For example, with the door panel, they've changed the number of people that can access that. Fewer people can access or install or remove a door panel. They have trained aggressively on making sure the paperwork, doing the small things are done right, as well as working on spotting and identifying and fixing defects before they leave the supplier's factory. So that's resulted in 56% fewer defects, fuselages coming into the Boeing plants that have to be fixed along with building the airplane. They've worked to reduce what they call traveling work done out of order, something that should have been done at phase one of building an airplane that ends up getting done 4 or 5 stops down the line. They've cut that down substantially. It was also an opportunity for him to just answer questions from the senators about not only the safety culture, but the sort of the bigger picture of Boeing and how they are trying to bring about cultural change. And he says that comes really from the top, from him and his executives setting a tone. He chose, instead of living in Washington, D.C., to live in Seattle, Washington, where the planes are built, to be closer to the line.
Kris, you've spoken to so many whistleblowers. Do you get a sense that what they heard in testimony today would appease some of their concerns?
You know, I think it depends on what concerns you're talking about. There were family members from the MAX crashes that were in attendance. They were disappointed because there weren't questions posed to Boeing's CEO about issues that we have reported on in airplanes that have already been built. There's been a handful of incidents in particular where like smoke filled the cockpit after a bird strike that the NTSB is currently investigating, where some components in the airplane broke in flight that the NTSB are investigating. There were no questions about that. The questions today were focused on the production now and looking forward. So, you know, there will be things in there that whistleblowers will be unsatisfied with. This idea of creating a culture where problems are heard, where people feel safe coming forward, and that those complaints or concerns are taken seriously, that should land well with whistleblowers who have consistently complained about fear of retaliation.
And Kris, the CEO was asked about the effects of President Trump's tariffs and what it will have on the company. Here's some of what he said.
80% of the airplanes we deliver, the commercial airplanes we deliver, are outside of the United States. So free trade is very important to us. And 80% of the content of those airplanes, it comes out of the United States. So we really are the ideal kind of an export company. So it's important that we continue to have access to that market and that we don't get in a situation where certain markets become closed to us.
How should we read his response and what it could mean for the cost of travel?
Well, and he did say that before the president announced the tariff measures today. So, you know, one of certainly the concern for Boeing, they are the nation's largest exporter, is that they end up in the crosshairs for other countries as they look to respond to U.S. actions. I spoke to Senator Cruz, who chairs the Commerce Committee, about that, and he said that is a concern. And one of the things he wants to see is that there are levers built into these tariffs where if a country adjusts theirs, the U.S. could adjust its tariff posture simultaneously in an effort to bring tariffs down across the board. Certainly, Boeing has a global supply chain, so when we talk about tariffs on things coming into the country, that can also lead to higher costs for Boeing at a time when, one, they're trying to stabilize their supply chain, but also stabilize costs.
Kris Van Cleave, thank you.
Sure thing.